Madeline Sophia Soto, or Maddie for short, was born on February 22, 2011, to her mother Jennifer Soto and her father Tyler Wallace. She was loving, silly, and confident. She was said to be a sweet girl who was always kind to others and had no problems with anyone. Madeline loved the movie Lilo and Stitch, playing the flute, going fishing, and she adored all animals. Madeline also dealt with ongoing anxiety and ADHD. At times, she had difficulties managing it, but always tried her best to internalize her struggles. Jennifer Soto, Maddie's mother, also struggled with her mental health as she had bipolar disorder. For this, she was said to be heavily medicated, but she still often had difficulties. Madeline's biological father, Tyler, who lives in Texas, had actually been engaged to a woman named Tatiana, but when they briefly ended their engagement in early 2010, Tyler made Jen Soto his rebound. It was then that she'd fallen pregnant with Madeline. Tyler ended up reconciling with his fiancée Tatiana shortly after Jen found out she was expecting, and he and Tatiana got married 2 months after Madeline was born. Regardless of the odd situation, Tyler still tried to remain in Madeline's life, and while she lived with Jen full-time, Madeline would go visit with her father and stepmother once a year. Jennifer Soto and Maddie lived together in a condo, which was located in Kissimmee, Florida, just minutes from Disney World. The mother and daughter also shared this home with 2 other roommates. Around the time that Madeline was 7 years old, in 2018, her mother began dating a man named Stephen Stearns. 37-year-old Stephen was, for a time, employed at the nearby Disney World as a cast member, but in more recent years hadn't been working at all. According to his parents, Stephen could be erratic and unpredictable due to the medication he was on. He'd been diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury from a car crash in his youth and had been on an IEP while in school. On February 25, 2024, Madeline celebrated her 13th birthday with her family and friends at her grandmother's house. Following the party, Madeline's aunt dropped her back off at home. Her mother, Jen, hadn't been able to attend that night as she had to work. And Stephen, whom Jen referred to as Madeline's stepfather, hadn't gone either since he did not get along well with Jen's mother, Madeline's grandmother, the one who had hosted the party. So it's believed that Maddie got back home around 10 that night, and Jennifer would later say that she returned home from work, about an hour later, to find Madeline and Stephen alone downstairs in their home. Something occurred between that night and the following afternoon, as Maddie was reported missing when she failed to show up for school. Her mother, Jennifer, realized her daughter was gone when she drove to Maddie's school around 4:30 p.m. to pick her up and was told by staff that her daughter had never arrived that day. According to the school district's policy at the time, parents were only contacted about absences at the end of the school day. Yet Jennifer and Stefan wouldn't go down to the police station until 8 p.m. that night to report the 13-year-old as missing. While there, Jennifer told police that her daughter had never run away from home before, and she had last seen her the night before, shortly before she'd headed to bed, around 11 p.m. That morning, the day Maddie disappeared, Jen claimed that she had been woken up by her boyfriend Stefan coming into her bedroom. He was looking for the dog to take it on a walk. Jen said that she had never gotten out of bed or left the room before Maddie went to school that day. However, she did inform police that she'd heard her daughter getting ready in the kitchen, sometime between 7 and 8. This statement would later be backtracked, however, and Jen would say that she'd probably just heard one of their roommates. Apparently, Stefan had then driven Maddie to her school, Hunters Creek Middle School, using Jen's car around 8:30 that morning. But he would tell police that he hadn't actually dropped her off on school grounds. Instead, Stefan said that Maddie had gotten out of the car a little ways away, near the Peace United Methodist Church on Town Boulevard in Kissimmee. According to him, this was because Madeline was embarrassed by the car he was driving, so she asked him to drop her off there. He then suggested to detectives that maybe Madeline had just never made it to her school from there. Police immediately began searching for the 13-year-old, and more than 50 members of the Orange County Sheriff's Office's emergency response team looked for her in the area where she was last reportedly seen. But despite Stefan and Jen's supposed concern that Madeline was missing, they would later admit to authorities that neither of them had gone out that night to assist in the search for her. When detectives sat down with Jennifer to formally interview her, she would admit that Maddie had slept upstairs in a guest bedroom with her 37-year-old boyfriend, Stefan. The mother claimed that while normally all three of them would sleep in the same bed, that particular night she had asked Madeline and Stefan to go to the guest bedroom together to sleep because she'd recently gotten a new job and needed to be well rested. However, it's also said that Jen barely worked since she didn't want it to affect her disability payments that she received. So not only did she send her daughter to bed with a grown man because of her job that she worked very little hours at anyways, but she also missed Maddie's important 13th birthday party so she could go into work. Additionally, Madeline had been staying at her grandmother's home the week prior to her disappearance, since Jen had been training for her new job working at a Disney hotel, and her hours were all over the place. Inside their apartment, Madeline had a small makeshift bedroom off the living room, so there was plenty of room for Jen, Maddie, and Stefan to all sleep in different beds, meaning that there was no need for her grown adult boyfriend and her 13-year-old daughter to be sleeping in the same bed. According to Jennifer, it was not unusual for Madeline to sleep in bed with Stefan while she herself slept elsewhere or was away from home. Jennifer explained that her own anxiety sometimes made it difficult for her to share a bed with anyone. She also mentioned that, although Maddie had her own room and bed, she rarely slept there and mostly just spent time there during the day. When detectives then spoke with Stefan, he told them that the reason he'd slept in bed with Madeline so often was because she always needed human contact as she fell asleep. He referred to it as snuggling.
Arrangements.
He sleeps in.
Okay. Did she sleep in her bed Sunday night?
No. I was just back. I'd been away for a couple months. We in the same bed together, so we get some serious sleep. So she said no to that and suggested that the guest room upstairs had a big enough bed. So some snuggle, cuddle time that would suffice, and Jen would get to sleep in peace.
Okay. So you say snuggle time. What does that mean?
I like to be alone. She is extremely dependent. She does not like to be alone at all. She needs human presence around her, simply.
Gotcha.
We've been trying to wean her off of that, but it's been difficult.
Apparently, a woman who used to work with and briefly dated Stefan said that he and Jennifer had broken up sometime in 2023, and that's when she began dating him. This woman told investigators that even during the time that Stefan and Jen weren't together, Stefan still insisted on returning to Jen's house every night, claiming that both the mother and daughter could not sleep without him there. Stefan also informed this woman that while he was at the Soto home, he would sleep in the same bed as Madeline. He justified this behavior to her by saying that he needed to cuddle with her so she could fall asleep. Stefan's former girlfriend also recalled a conversation in which he admitted that one morning he woke up in bed with Madeline with an erection and had to turn away. She found his remarks deeply inappropriate and ended their relationship soon after. Jennifer would also tell investigators that on the morning her daughter disappeared, Stefan left to drop Maddie off at school, and she got out of bed around 9 a.m., then went to a doctor's appointment. When she later returned home around 11 a.m., Stefan was there and he told her that both he and Maddie had accidentally left their cell phones at home when he brought her to school. Maddie had ADHD, so it is possible that she left her phone behind without thinking. However, Stefan was said to constantly be on his phone, so it would have been highly unusual for him to accidentally leave it behind. Either way, Stefan informed Jen that things had gone well that morning. He claimed that he'd offered Maddie breakfast at McDonald's multiple times, but she declined, despite this being their original plan. In fact, Stefan and Maddie had supposedly even woken up and left the home a little early that morning so they could go get McDonald's. So why hadn't they gone? After Stefan had returned from dropping Maddie off, he and Jen hung out at home for a bit. During that time, Stefan, who was sitting at the computer, told Jen that he had accidentally reset his phone while he was trying to do an update to it. A little while later, Stefan informed Jen that he was going to a few gaming stores and he would be back that afternoon so they could pick up Madeline from school together. But when Stefan had not returned back home by 2:30 p.m., Jen tried calling him. However, she received no answer. So at that point, she decided that she couldn't wait any longer for him and left to go get Maddie from school on her own. About 10 minutes after she'd left, Jen would finally hear back from Stefan when he called her to tell her that he was sorry, but he'd accidentally left his phone at home, yet again. While he was out, he told Jen that he'd gotten a flat tire somewhere on Interstate 192. According to him, his tire shredded and fell apart, but he'd be back soon. Shortly after, Jen realized that Maddie was missing, but she still waited for Stefan to return home before they both went down to the police station together to file a report. Although Stefan had previously told detectives that neither he nor Jennifer had searched for Maddie the night she disappeared, Jennifer later stated that Stefan told her he went out looking for the teen that evening and had left in her Nissan Sentra. He claimed to have driven up and down Interstate 192 while searching, though he didn't specify any exact locations. This was because in reality, Stefan had driven all the way to Northport, Florida, where his parents lived, for reasons that remain unclear. The following day, while Jen had woken up early to call various resources to try and help find Madeline, Stefan had slept in for most of the day. When police spoke to one of Jennifer's roommates, she said that she had gotten home from work on February 25th around 11:30 p.m. At that time, she didn't see anyone, but could hear people upstairs. The roommate went to sleep around 2:30 in the morning, and it was around then that she claimed she heard noises coming from Stefan's room. She described the noises as if someone was putting stuff onto a table. That same roommate said she'd then seen Stefan the following morning around 10:30 a.m., and he was acting odd. He was going upstairs and downstairs and in and out of the condo. He was also washing clothes, which the roommate had never previously seen him do. Since Stefan was the last known person to have seen Maddie, police took his phone to search it for any evidence. This seemed to make him very nervous on the drive home from the police station. Jen believed that authorities were targeting the wrong guy, so she had called up Stefan's father and told him, "I think we need to get him a lawyer." Then, 2 days after Maddie had gone missing, the Kissimmee Police Department arrested Stefan Stearns. But it was not in connection with Maddie's disappearance, rather on charges of sexual battery and possession of CP. When police searched Stefan's cell phone, they discovered multiple pictures and videos of him sexually assaulting Madeline. And it had been going on for years, as far back as 2022, when she was only 11 years old. They also found that Stefan had searched the terms sevoflurane and show up in a drug test on his phone in the weeks leading up to Maddie's disappearance. Sevoflurane is an anesthetic drug that can cause hypnosis, amnesia, and analgesia, though it's typically used during medical treatments. Investigators executed a search warrant at Jennifer's condo and quickly observed that several rooms in the home matched the background seen in many of the illicit images recovered from Stefan's phone. Deputies also discovered masturbation cream in his room, along with a firearm, ammunition, a tripod, and a black wallet with a chain labeled Natalia, which contained credit cards under multiple names. Investigators added that they found a photo on his phone showing a roommate of Jen's, nude in the bathroom. This roommate would later say she hadn't permitted Stefan to take that photo. On March 1st, detectives brought Jennifer in for yet another interview. This time she would tell them that she didn't want to believe Stefan had anything to do with Madeline's disappearance. However, after being shown the evidence photos of him essaying her teen daughter, she stated that she realized he was guilty. Jen then went on to call Stefan a master liar and manipulator. She also said that he was negative much of the time and would often get angry and irritable, but he would only ever get mad at Madeline over normal parenting things. Police then showed Jen some pictures they had obtained from traffic cameras and were taken on the day her daughter went missing. These photos depicted Maddie's limp body sitting in the front seat of Stefan's car. She had her head slumped to her left shoulder and her mouth was open. She did not appear to be alive. Detectives then informed Jen that their investigation was shifting from a missing persons case to a homicide. The mother fell silent for a few moments, then began to cry. Stefan had previously told detectives exactly where he had gone the day Madeline disappeared, but what he told them was not consistent with what was found. Stefan's car had been seen on multiple traffic cameras, and his route did not match the one on his phone's Google Drive. A camera at their condo complex also captured Stefan's actions that day. Around 7:30 in the morning on February 26th, it showed him throwing Maddie's backpack and school laptop into a dumpster. Both items were later recovered by authorities along with a trash bag containing one of the girl's shoes. Stefan was again seen returning to the apartment complex around 8:19 a.m., with the visibly deceased Maddie still in the car. Then, around 9:40 that morning, Stefan's car was seen on camera entering the parking garage near Holiday Inn Club Vacations on South John Young Parkway. He was seen walking to the front passenger side of the vehicle, opening the door, then proceeded to carry what appeared to be a limp female body to the trunk. During her interrogation, Jen additionally told police that when she had first started living with Stefan, they had a rule that Maddie was not allowed to sleep in the same bed as Stefan. But then Maddie began asking for sleepovers with him, which meant watching movies, eating popcorn, and falling asleep in bed. By June of 2023, Jennifer said that the three of them often slept in the same bed, with Madeline in the middle. After that, she was okay with the sleepovers between Maddie and Stefan because they got along very well. During these sleepovers, Stefan would sometimes be in just his boxers. Jennifer also said that sometimes she would wake up in the morning to see her boyfriend snuggling her daughter. When an officer asked the mother if she ever thought that this was weird, she said no. Jennifer additionally denied any knowledge of the ongoing victimization of her daughter and said that Stefan was evil, but the other sex stuff that he'd been doing to her for 2 or more years was not. To the detective who was interviewing Jennifer, it seemed like she had already accepted what had been happening to her daughter for years, and he believed that her emotions during the interview seemed fake. Jen would also say that she was worried that Maddie and Stefan's relationship would turn into a Woody Allen-type situation. Woody Allen fell in love with his young stepdaughter and married her. This made detectives very suspicious, and they wondered why a mother would ever worry about their daughter running off with their boyfriend unless she already knew that something was going on between the pair. Jennifer went on to tell investigators that Stefan was a messy person, and that was why she ultimately ended the relationship in December of 2022. He had, however, continued to live in the Soto home because, according to Jen, she considered him one of her best friends. In reality, it was likely because he was another source of income for her, since she then began charging him $600 a month to rent one of the bedrooms in the home. On March 1st, the same day Jennifer was interviewed by detectives, authorities received a call from a man who had watched a news conference and wanted to report a potential sighting of Stefan Stearns' car. The man said he saw the car on February 26th, and it was pulled off to the side of Hickory Tree Road. This was around 1:30 p.m. He'd seen a person with a tire iron in his hand outside of the vehicle, and the man whom he now knew as Stefan had a scared look on his face. But he figured that Stefan was likely just upset due to his vehicle being broken down on the side of the road. Law enforcement were then able to get a video taken on a street near Hickory Tree Road, and they found a possible match to Stefan's car traveling down that road just before 2 p.m. From there, authorities went out to the area in rural Osceola County to look for any signs of Maddie. During their search, they came across a set of locked gates. Once they were able to unlock them, it was only a few minutes of walking before they noticed a pair of blue jeans, and a little further away, Madeline's body. She was tucked behind a line of bamboo trees off Hickory Tree Road. Dried grass and hay had been scattered on top of Maddie's body. She was found wearing a green hoodie, blue jeans, and no shoes, only a pair of white socks, which were clean on the bottom, indicating that she didn't walk anywhere on her own. Madeline's body would be transported to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. Her cause of death was determined to be from strangulation, and her manner of death was homicide. Once police discovered Maddie's body, an investigator called up her mother Jennifer to inform her. Jennifer began crying on the phone, then handed the phone over to Maddie's father Tyler to continue the conversation. Tyler had actually gotten into his car and driven from Texas to Florida, as soon as he'd heard that his daughter was missing and had made it there just hours before her body was recovered. In April of 2024, Stefan was charged with first-degree murder in connection with Madeline's death. This was in addition to the over 60 other charges that he was facing due to the ongoing abuse of Maddie. The district attorney announced that he would be seeking the death penalty against Stefan. Before this, Stefan's only legal issues had been a series of speeding tickets over the years. However, it became clear he had been concealing much more. On April 11th, while cleaning out a storage unit, Stefan's father discovered a bin containing a hard drive typically used in a desktop computer, along with a watch that Stefan had previously told his father from jail was in his bedroom. He suspected that his son had accessed the storage unit during his trip to Northport on February 28th. When police were given this hard drive, they would find over 35,000 images of child sexual abuse. Surprisingly, Madeline was not among them, and it appeared the hard drive had not been used since 2020. Madeline's teachers and peers had suspected that something was wrong. They just didn't know what. One girl who was friends with Madeline said that she'd told her that she wanted to run away when she turned 13, but the girl didn't know why. Other friends of Maddie's told detectives that she had seemed pretty sad and had a meltdown just days before her death. There were other times in the past that Maddie had broken down into tears out of nowhere. One of Maddie's counselors spoke with detectives too, and she told them that the teen would sometimes have sleepy days. She would put her head down and do nothing, and he suspected she may have been depressed. Another counselor noted that Madeline had talked about her mother's boyfriend, Stefan, before, saying he was weird and made her uncomfortable. The counselor also noted that Maddie's grades had improved after December, when Stefan moved out of the home. When detectives spoke with one of Jen's roommates, she confirmed that Jen was on heavy medication for her mental issues, which she still frequently struggled with. This also made Jen spend a lot of time sleeping. Therefore, Stefan would end up spending a lot of time with the young girl instead. The roommate also described Stefan as messy and constantly playing video games. She mentioned that while he lived there, he'd never once used his own bedroom. The roommate additionally noted that Jen and Stefan had only dated for about 9 months before breaking up, yet he continued to stay in the home. So she'd found it strange that, even after Maddie disappeared, Jen and Stefan had still been referring to themselves as boyfriend and girlfriend. The roommate wasn't the only one who had suspicions about Jen and her involvement. In an email that Stefan's mother sent to him while he was in jail on June 25th, she said, "We all know," Jen's name was redacted, "was heavily involved in this, and I am disgusted that she is free, and you are not when this is not all your fault." Stefan did not acknowledge his mother's allegations in his email reply. Stefan's father confronted his son while he was behind bars and asked him why he'd driven to Northport just days before he was arrested, to which Stefan told him that he wanted to grab a few things and get his ducks in a row. He said, "Kinda prepare myself for whatever was coming, but I couldn't find what I was looking for." Stefan's father then stated he wished he could understand how the whole situation came about. And Stefan replied, "Well, I didn't start it." According to detectives, they believe that Stefan had gone to his parents' home in Northport on February 28th and used their Wi-Fi so he could log into his Google account to delete the images and videos of SA. Stefan's parents were also aware of the fact that Stefan had been sleeping in the same bed as Madeline and that Jennifer had been allowing it. His mother said in an interview with detectives, "Of course it would weird anyone out, a little girl sleeping with a man that's not her dad. It sounds weird. I trusted him enough to let it happen." In July of 2025, Stefan Stearns, who was facing the death penalty, decided to take a plea deal, and he pleaded no contest to murder and guilty to his other charges in relation to Madeline's SA and death. He was then sentenced to 21 life sentences, which are to run concurrently, or at the same time. Following the discovery of Maddie's body, a growing memorial was placed on the side of Hickory Tree Road. Balloons, cards, and toys were all dropped off by those who knew her, and also by many who didn't. A vigil for Maddie was held on April 13th, 2024, during which community members prayed, held a moment of silence, and listened to the teens' favorite songs from the movie Lilo and Stitch. Madeline's biological father and stepmother, Tyler and Tatiana Wallace, who attended, spoke about the young girl. Her stepmother, Tatiana, said, "You will always be remembered as the young girl running through pumpkin patches, learning to fish, feeding baby goats, and jumping into corn pits when you would come and visit us. It's hard to imagine that you're gone." Tyler and Tatiana saw Madeline Soto in October 2023, and they had no idea it would be the last time. Madeline's father said, "I just wish I could have seen her more," he said. "I wish I could have had her more, and I struggle with that. I will always struggle with that. It's not fair. Life isn't fair," he said. "You know, I love my little girl." We were patient. We were taking our time. By our belief, we were doing everything right, and it just happened like this. And there's no, the rest of her life. There's no making up for it. There's no improvement. It's just done now.